Hey everyone, welcome to Tales of Accessibility on Grafana Open Source. I will be telling you how we recently introduced Pa11y CI into our pipeline. And because I put Tales on the title, I must tell you a tale, right? So I will do it. Once upon a time, there was a village called Grafana Labs. Population of that village were really passionate about data and metrics. So one day they decided to create some tools, specifically metric visualization tools, and to make these data visualizations easier to use. When they did that, the world outside say, yay, because they were really good. And years passed, and these tools became better and more people started to use them. And even the artisans of these tools were growing, like the team were growing a lot. But then one day, they were started to receive some letters. And these letters were mentioning things like, hey, your tools seem really nice, but in my case, I cannot see them. I can hear them, but sometimes they're a bit weird. They start to repeat specific texts and words over and over, like label, link, image, and that's it. There is nothing more. Other letters were saying like, look, I can see them, but I have problems with my hands. Like my hands are really like in pain, and I have to use the mouse. And this little rat doesn't like me, so can you do something about it? And the members of this village start to think like, yes, we could definitely do something about it. So they embark into an accessibility quest. And this accessibility quest signed into a commitment to the outside world to say, hey, we want to improve our graphical user interface to be more accessible. And we want to embark in this quest with the help of every one of you outside world, and also with our internal members of the crew. So yeah, I am part of the quest of accessibility in Grafana. I am Alexandra. Originally, I am from Colombia. I am now living in the Netherlands. I am a software engineer in the Grafana open source. And right now I work with the User Essentials squad. Why is accessibility important? Let's begin with this. Did you know that 50% of population have some disability nowadays? 80 million people are in Europe. 270 million people have some visual impairment, like from moderate to severe. And by 2060, people who are 60 plus, like over years old, is going to be double, so 98 million. When I was checking these statistics, I realized that I will be 70 something. And this scares me a lot because I will be part of the statistics. So accessibility is quite important because when I am 70, I really want to be part of technology, and I want to be able to use these tools and not be out because I cannot see properly. So it is really important, and it is really important from people who create these tools to start working this today. And all right, you might say, yeah, sure. Like, we are not doing that bad, right? Like I think the internet, I use it every day, and it seems we are doing great. So let's ask questions ourselves. How is the web right now? Is it following the WCAG standard? WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. There are recommendations to create web content that is more accessible. So they have some guidelines that for people who want to create products in terms of like technical products, they can follow, and it will make their products more accessible. So if you follow them, you are creating accessible products. If you don't follow these guidelines, you are not doing that. WebAim is an institute for disability and research, and every year they do an annual accessibility analysis. They analyze over 1 million homepages, and this is from 2021, February. And what they found is quite shocking, like 97.4% of these 1 million homepages have detectable WCAG WCAG failures. The most common types of failures are low contracts in text, missing alternative text for images, missing form inputs label, empty links, missing document language, etc., and go over more. And you might think like, well, this is not that like important. Like, let's focus in keyboard navigation. And indeed, like accessibility is not only one side, but these WCAG failures that they found are detectable ones. It means we can use automation tools to detect them and fix them in our projects. And let's begin with saying that accessibility is a group effort. You have to involve your developers, your UX, technical writers, everyone in the company should have this mindset of creating products that are accessible. Even just helping to test something with a keyboard makes a difference in the daily life of creating products. So I told you about the quest that we started doing in Grafana, and I will just mention what are we doing in Grafana open source, not in the other tools, but in the open source for Grafana. The first thing is like, you don't know what you don't know. So we have to gain accessibility skills, go to trainings, go to courses. So we have to really make sure that accessibility knowledge is here. The second is, okay, let's take advantage of automated tools. Like, as I mentioned, WCAG is able to, WCAG being these guidelines, and WebAim was able to have these statistics. So definitely means that we can use automated tools to detect them before we are in the statistics. And the third part is really important use usability test, do usability tests with real people, because tools are like automated tools, or machines are not people. We have to test that our products are usable for people who have some sort of disability. So when we started in the Grafana open source group, especially in the user essentials team, we have these two questions. Where are we in terms of accessibility? And how many accessibility issues do we have? And this how many is very important. Like, you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So we started to figure out or to do research around like what we could use in order to know these answers. So we found out about this tool called Pa11y CI. Pa11y CI, it is a tool that collects accessibility issues in a URL that you pass and give a report. You can do anything with that report. Pa11y CI belongs to Pali, so there is Pa11y CI, Pali dashboard, but we decided to use Pa11y CI. Why? We have two main objectives. The first one is we wanted to know where we were, right? So we wanted to collect all of these accessibility issues, then send this data into a dashboard, and then with this data, we could see how we were doing over the time. Are we doing good? Like, are people introducing more accessibility issues or not? And the second one was to prevent accessibility regressions. What if we just train all people in accessibility, and all of them just work towards that, but then we put more people in teams, and also we have community. So how can we prevent that the errors that we fix today are not tomorrow here? So this is the second part. These drawings that I tried to do this afternoon kind of like represent the overview of what was the approach. So for the first one, we have for every commit in the main branch, we added an accessibility step on our continuous integration. We used drone. And this accessibility step was generating a report with all of the issues. And then what we do was we send this data to a dashboard that we have for metrics. The second one, for preventing regressions, is we did the same as the top. Like, we added the accessibility step in the continuous integration. Internally, it does the same, but the only difference is if the step finds some issues, some accessibility issues, the pipeline step will fail. At the beginning, we decided like if it fails, it will block the PR, but because of stories that I will tell you in the future, now it's not mandatory. Like, people know it's failing, but it's not blocking that. But probably this will change soon, I hope. Okay, so give me a little bit of the code, Alexa, because you are talking too much. So if you want today to embark in this quest of introducing Pa11y CI in your project, and you want to check how are you doing. First, install Pa11y CI. Second, because Pa11y received a configuration file where you can define the URLs. So here I will just mention, like, because Grafana is open source, you can go and see the code. This is the configuration file that we have. Let me just put this a little bit big. So it's very simple. You just put the URL that you want to test. And here we have, like, we are testing 13 pages right now, like login, orgs, alerting, data sources, etc. And something important is this threshold, because this is for PR stage. We wanted to, like, only fails if new accessibility issues are coming in. We already know how many we have right now. We know we have to fix them, but we just don't want more new ones. So the threshold is a very nice property from Pa11y. The second thing is, okay, you create your config file. So let's just add this into your npm package. Oh, wow, I am going crazy with the Zoom. So this is just the command from Pa11y CI that receive a configuration file and then just from Pa11y, and that's all the magic. And the third, fourth step, sorry, just add this into your pipeline step. There is a nice, Pa11y CI has some nice tutorials that you can follow depending on the continuous integration that you work. In our case, because we are using Drone, this was what we did. So here we just define the name of the step, what kind of like environment variables we need, because for example, like the host and the port, like you need some configuration here. You need to have some continuous integration knowledge. And then we just, like, the most important, you just run the step that we define in the packaging, and this will do the magic. And then you just push your changes and you are good to go. And sounds really easy, right? But then let's go with the good news. We were able to do it. So we have right now a dashboard with all of the accessibility issues that we collected based on the 13 URLs that we configure. So we started from 140. And now we are in 38. So this is very nice. This bit here, I will explain what happened. And here we are in 38. So it's very good news. And in this point, I want to really kind of like highlight, like, you need to measure where you are, because else you don't know how you can, if you are improving or not. So this, we put a lot of effort on this because we wanted to make sure we were not, like, to see if we are going backwards or forward, like, is very important. The second one, the second thing of the demo that I want to show you is how this looks like in our pipeline. So because we use Run, I want to show you. Here is our accessibility step. So literally, it's just like we have a lot of things happening. If someone open up here, this will be run. And if everything goes well, this is like, yay, we did it. And you can see here, there is some reports of, oh yes, in the login, we found 3 errors, but are within the threshold of 3, so we will not make the step fail. That's super cool. But if something fails, how, like, reading this is not really nice. So we also provide a accessibility report summary. It's a local HTML report that you can generate here, and it's very nice because, like, locally, because you could go to each of these URLs and you have a better overview of what exactly is failing in terms of accessibility. So it is easier to identify how to fix this. We have some struggles when we were doing this integration. And this is what I was saying, that accessibility is a group effort. First, in our team, we have a gap knowledge in terms of technical CI topics. So we have to learn, and we have to, of course, ask the people who knew more. It kind of like, yeah, it was a nice challenge to do, but indeed it's a struggle. The second part is flakiness on Pa11y. At the beginning, when we just pushed the changes, we noticed that sometimes there was 140, but others 130. And it was kind of like these tiny things that makes impossible to make the step mandatory on PR stage, because then you will block people with errors that are not consistent. In this point, something was broken. Like Pa11y has a conflict with another library and literally was giving us like few errors, but they were not real. Like it was not working. So this is not positive, it was bad. Here we fix it and back again. And the last one, in here, we started to do some fixes in the team, and these are real improvements. So it is really nice to have this, because definitely for the team and for the project, we know how we are doing. What's next for this accessibility in the CI? We want to add more URLs. Specifically, we want to add URLs for visualizations to test, because right now we are not covering many of them. So we are like missing this part. Continue fixing accessibility issues. Continue working towards accessibility culture. Means in PRs, we really want to make sure that people are aware that we are working towards accessibility. So just have accessibility in your mind and put the lenses of accessibility when you are reviewing a PR, because it is quite important. The question, the million one, is Pa11y CI going to catch all accessibility issues? And if we use this, then all Grafana is accessible? No. Unfortunately, automated tools are only able to catch around 20% of accessibility issues. I just see it in the positive way, means that if we catch 20%, we only have to worry about the 80. So I think we will avoid human linters on PR saying like, you forgot to add this like missing alt text into the image. So it's kind of like using the tool to avoid these human linters. So for me, it's good enough. And I think for the team as well. If you are going to embark into an accessibility quest, make sure you bring some things with you. First, measure where you are or where your project is right now. Work with an amazing team, because you will need support in the whole journey. Make sure you have an instance available in the CI. This was our biggest mistake. Like we were just testing this locally, and then when we were going to the CI, we were like thinking, oh, of course, because Pa11y needs to go to a Grafana instance to collect accessibility issues. Like, where is this instance? So that we have it, but yeah, we didn't think about it. So make sure you have an instance to test this, to collect these accessibility issues on your CI. And if you don't know or you don't have skills in how your CI works, dare to learn. That is not that complicated if you have people that support you, and it's really worth it. Start small, only few URLs at the beginning. This kind of like will create this like wheel of accessibility culture, and be patient, because this takes some time. And you can find me in GitHub as Alexa Vargas and in LinkedIn as Axela. And also sometimes I'm in the community channel. So reach me out if you have any questions related with accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. During your presentation, we ran 2 different polls. So let's first have a look at the polls and then see if there's some questions in the chat. I've seen a couple, but I'll give you a minute to, regain your breath. So for the first poll, which was whose responsibility is that a product or service is accessible, the overwhelming majority mentioned that it's engineers. And I'm super curious, what do you think, Alexa?
I think it's a shared responsibility, because when I was checking, like, of course, engineers has the, like you are the ones who are creating, we are the ones who are creating the tools. But I think sometimes we need other eyes to check that because we can be focused in so many technical things that we forget that we are creating for real people. So I think for people who are like, I don't know, selling the product, they also can go and check how the keyboard navigation works. It is a shared responsibility. Indeed, it's visible more for engineers or UX, but I think if the company is committed to have accessible tools, it is everyone, the people who sell the tools, the people who promote the tools, anyone can raise accessibility issues. We can fix them, it's true.
Cool, thank you. The other poll was, do you all, like all of the participants, do you have accessibility testing built into your development cycle? 60% said no, and there was like a hopeful 20% that said maybe, and I'm hoping that maybe is a yes in the end. What is maybe a tip for people just starting out adding accessibility testing to their testing tool belt?
I think it's, you know, when I started with task accessibility, I realized that I knew nothing about it. So I was very ignorant in the whole WCAG standard. And I thought I knew HTML, but I didn't, like, not in the accessible way.
Not really? Yeah.
Not really, because I'm actually very sorry for all the people who I just created products because they were not that accessible now that I investigated more. So I think being curious about what is this accessible world entails. So it's just literally go and follow a small course that teach you a little bit more things. And also it has to do as well with the fact that you have to be more empathetic with your users. So in my opinion, if you see your user that, for example, are not able to use the mouse, or even yourself because of the pain, making something keyboard navigable, it is just a tiny thing that can improve so many lives. So two things.
Exactly, because a disability can be very situational as well, right? Because you could break your arm, or
yeah.
There's a lot of awesome presentation, Alexa, in the chat. So if you want to have a, pick me up later on, you should definitely open the chat and have a look. But I know that there were some questions, so I'm just scrolling through. Question for Alexa. You mentioned that usability testing is one of the ways how to test accessibility. Have you already done any such usability testing in Grafana? And if yes, can you share some details?
Me personally, I didn't. So because I just joined Grafana 5 months ago, so I am quite new in the whole company. But I know we have some plans in our team to do it. I am not sure if I think we did it in the past, like UX team was working in the past with some, doing some user research with doing this usability test, but I cannot give you details because I was not there, so.
All right, I think we'll forgive you. Also, thank to Uche for sharing the accessibility statement on grafana.com/accessibility for anyone who wants to check that out. Yeah, and Sam, says only 5 months in and making huge impacts. So congratulations, Alexa.